Hey, what's up? This is Bobby Hoyt from Millennial Money Man. I am doing a podcast for the first time for this brand, and it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. However, I never want to do a super boring kind of interview podcast. That's why I've avoided doing it. And I've told the audience that I was going to do it many, many times over the years, and I never did it. So here we are. And I've got some wonderful people with me that are going to be doing this podcast with me. And it's mostly because I made them.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, because I just kind of feel like if they're employees and you say do this, like sometimes they can't say no. So they're here. They're going to do the podcast with me. I've got Ariel. I've got Michael, and basically a lot of stuff has changed with the brand over the last several years. If you have been following for many years, it was just me kind of writing stuff randomly about personal finance. Over the years, I've really felt like making more money is probably the most important thing you can do in your personal finance journey. And so we've changed it a lot. We brought in Michael. Ariel's been with me forever, but we've really changed a lot of the site and how it works. And now we're really a make money brand. That's what we focus on. We help people make more money in a lot of different ways: side hustles, investing, freelancing, online business. And that's kind of what we do now. So I don't know if Michael told me I had to do an intro, so I don't know exactly what else I'm supposed to be talking about. However, I will say that this podcast is called Questionable Decisions. And the reason that we started this podcast is because Michael bought a $200 pepper grinder and we made fun of him a lot for it. At least I think that's why we started it. I'm not actually sure. It was Ariel's idea.
That's exactly why we started this podcast.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about questionable financial decisions. And that's it. Michael, how did I do?
Great.
Thank you.
Questionable decisions.
Okay, so here's what we're starting with, right? This is kind of like a very important topic right now in this country. The Powerball, which I don't know if anybody else did the Powerball. Like, I don't know if you guys get tickets for that or not. No. I did not do it, and I've probably done it maybe once or twice in my life, but it seems like the number just keeps getting like way, way higher. And so recently, 1.9 billion, everybody probably has thought about like what they would do with it. But we're going to start with an article that's on CNBC Make It that is about basically what would you do with it, but it's Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary's take. And if you don't know who they are, you should watch Shark Tank. It's pretty dope. Here's what Mark Cuban says. He thinks that if you were going to get all of that money, you should keep most of it in the bank rather than risking it on investments that might not pay off, because you don't become a smart investor when you win the lottery. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think you get, so 1.9 billion. How much do you think you get on that?
That was like less than half, maybe 600 million or something.
Yeah. So some kind of CNBC says 934.8. It's 900. It's a ton of money, but he thinks that you should just offset inflation and put it into a low cost S&P 500 index fund and let it grow long term. He basically likes index funds. Here's what Kevin O'Leary, who I like more, if I'm going to be totally honest here, he says, take the lump sum, do not spend it. Pay yourself an annuity and put the excess cash flow to work for you. More money up front means more to invest and grow. So he thinks you should just start investing, even if you're dumb, just get in there. And then he said to grow it, put it in low volatility, dividend paying stocks. And the lump sum, you get less than the annuity, but you're going to be able to take advantage of compound interest right away. They both agree that you should not spend a lot of money, which I think is a terrible take. I think you should spend a ton of money very quickly.
Yeah, sure. You just made $600 million. So let's just start with some of those figures. The take home of it is roughly just under $1 billion. That you're going to be taxed at 37%. So you're coming home with, like, let's call it 600 million, right? That's what's going to, if you take the lump sum. First off, do we all agree lump sum? Like,
I think you have to. I'm not waiting.
Absolutely. For that. So you take the lump sum, you get taxed on it. I actually would like to start with the fact that none of you, no one should ever be playing the Powerball. I think your odds of winning are like 1 in 300 million, and there's like 300 and some odd million people in America. I always think about it like, if you've ever flown on an airplane, you look down, you see a house, like the thousands and thousands of houses. It's like one person in one of those houses could win. So obviously not a sound financial strategy, but if you want to do it for fun, please don't stake your life on the results of the Powerball. But I think I agree that you're never going to outinvest an index like the S&P 500. I'd probably would put a lot of it there to let it grow steadily. But you want to have fun, and you want to like invest in things you believe in or that interest you. I'm sure everybody thinks this, but I kind of think I would sort of know what to do with it. You'd let a lot of it sit there, you'd spend some of it, and you'd invest some of it. But I've also never won $600 million, so I don't know.
I want to go back to your point about why you shouldn't play the Powerball, because I just looked it up and you have a higher chance of dying from lightning strike than winning Powerball. So, I mean,
I think
I
you're
don't know
both
if I like.
totally off on that. You should play it every once in a while. I think when it gets to like 1.9 billion, like just it's
Okay,
for fun,
here's
you know?
I've always thought this. They say you should play when it's high, as though winning $50 million would be less
right.
impactful or exciting, and there's less people playing at that point.
I
I
feel like
think
you
if
play
you're
it
going
when
to play
it's
the
low.
Powerball, you play it when it's low.
No, that's not as much fun. That's boring. Like you want to be part of it. You want to be part of it. And do we need to say that this is not financial advice? Is anybody gonna
Think you
say
need
that
to
before we actually get
you-
into the podcast?
This is
Can you
not
just
financial
Nothing.
advice.
Yeah, like Michael just gave some non-financial financial advice. Nothing that we say here. Please don't do anything that we say at all, ever.
Unless it's play the Powerball when it's low versus when it's high.
You have to play it when it's high, and I think that it's not even a question. And I think what you said, Michael, is like extremely reserved. I thought you were going to say something wild. That was way different than what I was expecting. I'm getting bodyguards. That's the first thing I'm doing.
Bodyguards. Do you have like
Yeah.
people in your life that you feel who would be a threat to you?
I don't, but I would find them really quickly if I
Yeah.
won 600 or 700 million dollars.
I
Like
think
they
you
would
open
come
your
out.
high school yearbook, you'll see all the people who are going to be coming out.
I think I've thought about this. I think what you do, you get some kind of, you get security, maybe two of them, one during the day and one at night, or one that lives with you. Not really sure. I think you gotta move, like you gotta move quickly. You gotta set up an LLC. You gotta buy the house in the LLC. You gotta get something with security cameras. Like my paranoia would go off the charts.
Are you like keeping this in cash, like with you at all times? Why do you need the security?
But no, it's just because
Someone
people,
taking you
man,
hostage
people
or
are
something?
Ransom.
crazy.
Yeah, they might ask
Oh,
for
yeah.
ransom.
Exactly. Yeah. This is real stuff. So I think you got to go kind of into hiding for a little bit until, like, I think you got to do some stuff like that. You got
Well,
to
here's the
go
other thing.
somewhere
You don't
remote.
have to. You don't have to reveal yourself. You can win the Powerball and no one knows who you are.
It depends on what state you're in. I think. Don't quote me
Oh.
on that, but I think depending on the state, they disclose it or they don't disclose it. I don't know. Somebody can fact check me on that, but I read that in something the other day.
Well, let's assume that you're in a state where you don't have to be known. Who are you telling? How
Who am I
close to the vest
telling?
are you keeping it?
I'm not even telling my wife. I'm not telling anybody. We're just moving. There's going to be security that comes in, and that's it. Like it's just things are just going to change, and I'll tell her when the time feels right for her own safety.
I feel like I'm an oversharer, like accidental oversharer, that I would just be like picking a kid up from school and accidentally say, like, I won the $2 million jackpot.
You would die
Like, how's your
quickly.
week going? And then
Yeah.
that would come out.
You
So
would not last long.
You'd be shopping at Aldi,
yes, I would.
talking to the less fortunate.
You wouldn't make it long.
I would be passing
unfortunately.
my cart along though, without asking for their 25 cents at that point.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's how
See,
you would. That's how you'd spread some good in the world. You'd leave your
Yes.
quarter in the cart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Everybody always says like get an attorney, which I agree with that part. Get an attorney. I think if you
This
don't
is
have
not
an
legal
accountant,
advice. This is
get an
not
accountant.
financial
Yeah,
advice.
nothing here is what you would don't go do this, but you could go do this.
It's
So
probably
you get
pretty
those
sound
two.
legal advice to hire an attorney. Like, can we at least?
Yeah,
Can
I
we
think
at least
so. I think
commit
we
to
can say
much?
that.
Okay.
Yes.
People say get a financial advisor. I don't agree with that. I think you
Yeah, I
don't
don't
do
either.
that right away because I think that there's a lot of financial advisors that like if you are in a position where you have that much money and you don't know what to do with it at all, like giving it to somebody that you don't know very well is not a good idea. So I think you keep it in cash for a while. Like I think you just lay low, don't die, don't get kidnapped for a long time until like everything kind of smooths over, and then you go and buy like a mini horse or something like that in a mansion.
Yeah. So if we're talking about buying mini horses and mansions and bodyguards, what else would you do with your money? Like, what else would you guys do with, $600 million?
I see. I'm like, I might not even invest it right. Like, it's so much money. Like, unless you just start spending wild amounts of money, like you don't even if inflation eats away at it, like you're not going to run out of money if you just don't become like, if you're not like Mike Tyson and you just start buying like every exotic animal. And I think that I would definitely buy a mansion for sure.
Mhm.
But and I would buy at least I'd buy 2 or 3. I think real estate's a good play here. I think you buy 2 or 3 properties, and then I think you maybe maybe you put it in an index fund or something boring like that. And I think you keep a lot of it cash. I would keep a ton of
Well,
it
that's
cash.
why again, I've never been in the position money makes people do crazy things, but to me, it seems like if you just literally got the money, you took $600 million, you stuck it into a money market account, you put it at Schwab, and you don't do anything, you don't invest it, you don't have to decide any of that. Over 1 year, it'll make you $10 million. Like, you can just relax. And if you
Mhm.
want to, I
Yeah.
think what's kind of cool about the idea of that is you could lean into the things that interest you. You know that real estate is something that's successful. You buy one house and you flip it, or you buy one apartment building and you kind of figure it out in a sort of, I feel like it'd be fun to have that much money is what I
Oh
feel
my
like.
gosh. I
People
think so
feel
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I think people feel like they need to
That's
take 600 million and turn it into $1 billion. Like, what if you didn't? What if you just sort of did things that interest you and aligned with what you wanted to do? I feel like that's what I do. Would I buy a cool car and a house? Yeah, but would I buy a $10 million house? Probably not. I'd probably want to start in kind of an incremental way. And
well, I
it
would not
seems
be
like
going to your house.
we didn't both
Boring.
win $600 million. So I think I'm gonna have a nicer house than you at that point.
Yeah, that's probably true. All right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't spend I mean, I don't know. I would spend a lot, but I wouldn't invest a lot. I would maybe do some angel investing, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's
But I do
interesting.
think you're
I
right,
can
Michael.
believe
I think it's like you do some stuff you're interested in because I'm not trying to go and start like some kind of like hedge fund or real estate investing firm or something boring like that. Like you're rich as hell. Like just go be rich, you know? I maybe
So
get a
going
car
back to
collection.
like the initial prompt in terms of which
Mhm.
is better, who has got better advice there. So your advice is screw investing altogether, or,
Yeah,
don't
I mean, I
make
would
that your priority.
make it it's play money at the time. You have a
Mhm.
sandbox to play in. That's what I've always thought is, your money will make money for yourself if it literally sits in a money market account, at a 1.7% annual return. But even in the S&P 500, like that's a safe bet, there's not many things that beat that over time. So that is where I'd likely want to put the bulk of just letting it sit there, make a little bit of money. But to Bobby's point, I think angel investing and picking things that interest you and things that, ignite your passions. Like you have fun money at that point. You don't need to turn it into $3 billion if you don't want to.
Mhm.
And I think honestly, when you see the horror stories from people who win the lottery, it's because they go absolutely insane.
Yeah.
They go to Vegas, they buy the Lamborghinis, they blow it up their nose. Like it's it's not because they made unsound investment decisions.
Well, they invested their money in
through
something. It was just
yeah.
not the right investment,
But
really.
even if you did that, so this says $934 million, like you could go crazy for a long time and still not run out of money. Like you just have to do somebody. I think where a lot of people they get screwed by somebody they trust that's like, oh, let me invest this money for you in some cool business opportunity, and then they just steal it. Like that happens to
Mhm.
athletes all the time. I think that's where you get screwed. But I think the most important thing is to not die.
Right. Will you figure out a way to cryogenically freeze yourself or
No, I mean immediately not die. Like I think
Oh,
you got to
okay.
protect
Okay.
yourself. Very paranoid about this.
$600 million is $1 million a month for 50 years.
Yeah. So even if you just invested like a small portion of that, like
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what, Joe Rogan, I think is a good example of what I think people turn into when they have a lot, not because he wasn't an Elon Musk business type of person. Cause I think Elon would take it and like just go start some other massive company or something or buy something. But like Joe Rogan was a comedian, relatively like normal person. Then he got 100 million from Spotify. What you see him do is like he invests in companies that align with his interests, like supplement companies and athletic stuff and like MMA stuff or whatever. I don't know what
Well,
all he invests
and
in.
also he builds like the coolest studio that he loves to go to with cool,
Yeah.
filling it, and interviews people for 3 hours a day. Like it's just all aligned with stuff that he likes to do. And I think that's where people, whether you have $600 million or whether you have $1 million, there's this kind of wisdom of the world that says, you have to choose a money manager who, can really diversify you and do all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, that's one way to make money. It's also a way to not know what your money's doing and, turn over the decisions about that money to someone else. or you can choose the things that you do know about or things you want to learn about and invest in a way that keeps you involved with your money's success and keeps you happy too. I think people who just, ship all their money off to a money manager and are afraid to spend it or afraid to, do anything with it that aligns with their passions. What fun is that? It's not
No fun. Ariel,
fulfilling.
have you said what you would do? Did we ask you yet? Because I feel like you're one of those people that would just give it all away or something.
I would not give it all away. I would have
okay.
a lot of fun with it. I would probably buy some cool old cars.
What kind of old cars
yarn.
though? Like
a 69 fastback Mustang.
okay, I didn't see this coming. All right.
Yeah, I would have an old Porsche, call Larry and figure out, what to get.
Larry's like, he's our tech guy, if anybody is wondering. He's randomly saying people's names.
There'd be some other ones probably, like just, like whatever mood you're in, you would have a car to drive to Aldi or, the bank to withdraw more money. Yarn, lots of travel, I think.
What's the most, and I think we've talked about this offline before, but what's the most expensive yarn out there?
The most expensive yarn out there, Quivet, maybe, I think.
And isn't this like some animal spins it in their little nest or something?
Quivet is from a bison, I believe. I'm looking this up right now. I feel bad that
What if you just
remember.
What if you bought farmland with those bison on it and you had an unlimited supply of it? And you
I think Ted Turner owns a lot of the land where bison are right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't really like Quivet, so I probably wouldn't buy, bison farm. But small pack of some sheep. That'd be good.
Okay. So this is like super eclectic. You're just like Joe Rogan, by the way. He bought a lot of cars. So I don't know if you identify.
I've always said that about Ariel.
Yeah, you're just like him. And he was like, I have a lot of cars because I have a few money. And so that was it. So now
this is like the most hurtful thing you could ever say to me right now.
And see, I find having cars to be like stressful. I'd want to pick like 2 cars tops. You know what I might do? I might like some kick-ass RV or something, like some like baller thing to like travel the US in with like a hot tub on the roof, and
it's not secure enough.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Bobby's got a lot of concerns about someone taking him out.
I feel like Bobby stays up at night. Like this is what wakes him up in the middle of the night.
Well, it could have something to do with Michael deeply researching me before he came into the company and made me extremely uncomfortable with that. I don't know. I could be traumatized by something like that. Who knows?
Well, we don't have time to get into your trauma, so I think maybe we move on.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right. So I wanted to talk about recently Elon bought Twitter and they laid off lots of people. And after the big wave of people that they laid off, we've kind of seen this back and forth, and every couple of days this crops up. There's some employee who kind of shoots off at the mouth on Twitter, says something about the company or about Elon, and he fires them. Several times has like let them know on Twitter. The podcast is called Questionable Decisions. This is my first questionable decision that I posed to the two of you. What do you think about that decision? Good or bad?
Actually,
I'm going to go first.
I want to hear from Ariel first. Yeah.
I think that, first of all, I think kudos to them. I don't think that I would do it. I think it takes a special person to, quit publicly like that, because they know that they're going to quit, right? Like they know that's what's happening, instead of turning in their 2 week notice. Well, probably not the first one, but everybody else after the fact has seen that. So why not go out that way? And then I feel like these people all are going to have, I don't know, I feel like they're going to have a great job here in the next few weeks. Like this like, not martyrdom, but this I quit Twitter this way. This is how I quit my job. This is how I got
the tech
fired.
market's looking really great right now. I'm sure that their prospects are fantastic.
Well, maybe they'll pivot and do something else.
It's not the greatest time of all time to make that decision, but yes.
Bobby, what do you think about your employees saying, like, if you're going to go out guns a-blazing?
Dude, well, Ariel's she's already come at me on Facebook, but she does it in a way that I can't actually like fire her for, because she is so sarcastic that I'm like, I don't think that that's real, So it's one of those, like, she's very crafty at it. But I think I think you're wildly wrong here, Ariel.
Really?
Yeah. I think that these people are dumb. Like, I don't think that they did. If you watch, okay, if you, not all of them, I think that there are some that are like, I'm going to go out in the flame, what is that? Blazing thing of glory, whatever. I'm going to go out and I'm going to prove this point or whatever. But if you read some of the tweets from some of the people that have done this, they like didn't see it coming. They're like, oh, I got fired and this sucks. Like how they are totally shocked that there was some kind of like real world consequence for them talking shit about their new boss.
I mean,
which
I think then they would get fired in any other way. Like, I would expect that the majority of people who got fired over Twitter this way, they knew what was going to happen. But the ones who didn't, I mean, there was going to be another reason for them to be fired if they're that stupid.
That's probably true. I actually think that Elon, I don't know. It's hard to tell with him because I can't tell. I mean, obviously he's smart. I mean, you have to be smart to do what he's done. I kind of feel like he was doing some of that on purpose to like suss people out a little bit because like he was talking crap about, he tweeted some stuff about how Twitter works and he was wrong. Like he actually was wrong. So I don't know if he did that on purpose or if he was like, he did that and then he found all these people that were like quote tweeting him and then just like he was like, oh, I should fire these people because it's a bad culture fit. And then he kept doing it. He has been kind of doing it in a strange way. It's been a weird thing to like watch. Usually this stuff happens internally. You don't see it, but this is happening on a very public stage. So I just don't think, generally speaking, it's a good. I think Twitter is sometimes bad for society, and I think that it really causes people to say whatever comes to their mind without thinking about it. Because this is not like, these are not the first people that have like faced real consequences from saying things on Twitter. So I think, I don't know. I feel like if you work at Twitter and you do that and you're surprised, then yeah, you're probably dumb, right?
Well, I don't know about dumb. I mean, they're obviously, well, I don't know about obviously, but I would assume that many of them are intelligent. I think there's two parts of this that are fascinating. Number one, a company like Twitter now being private versus public. A public company has to run every decision they make, every feature that they ship, even something like layoffs, through what it would do to their stock price. Like that is the filter that they think through. Elon bought Twitter. It's private now. And I kind of have to remind myself when I see some of the headlines, it's like, oh crap, well, that probably hurt Twitter. It's like, no, not if it doesn't ultimately hurt Twitter, because there are no investors in Twitter right now, or there's no open investors on the stock market. I find that very interesting to see. And Bobby, you also mentioned that a lot of times this stuff happens in private. What's funny is not only is it not happening in private, it's happening on Twitter, which is the product, that is the company. So there's like so many layers of just interest there. But
very meta.
But speaking of people laying off lots of people.
Yeah.
I think the other thing here that's fascinating is, and I come from some startups, definitely no Twitter, but there is a real Silicon Valley, like San Francisco type startups culture, a public persona of being kind of like, a little entitled. They make huge salaries. They all think that they are God's gift to the company. And so in my mind, what I saw was quite a sense of entitlement to the job, that it was like, how dare I be fired? How dare he fire all these people? How dare all these layoffs happen? That's kind of what a company is. It is the real world. A company's job is to make money, especially now when they've been taken private and they have to make money, whereas before they could just bleed money. So yeah, I think it's very idiotic to publicly attack or call out your boss in public. And yeah, maybe some of them knew that was going to happen. I honestly think that many of them didn't. They did not think that that would be the repercussions for their actions. But in my opinion, those are quite questionable decisions to send that tweet.
I mean, I will agree that it is questionable. I mean, I think it would take, even if you were expecting this to happen, it would take a very special type of person to feel like they could do this. I mean, I cannot even imagine opening up your computer or like pulling out your phone and like, here's what I'm going to do right now. Publicly crash and burn my career. Like that would be, I can't imagine doing it, but
Well, it's
there's
also
something about the guts that it would take to do that sort of a thing.
Well, there's also no other public figure, none. And this is Elon before he bought Twitter, who is as involved and as vocal and on Twitter as Elon. And so I think a lot of the Twitter employees likely thought that either it wouldn't be seen or it wouldn't be, if they made a statement, it wouldn't be fact checked. But on several of these people who have called out Elon, they would say something and he'd come back with the receipts. Like he'd bring the stats to refute them. There was the one recently about how much free meals were costing. And he said it costs
saw that one.
$400 a person a meal. And someone said, I worked for that department and that's not true. And he like came back with like basically the receipts. Like he owns the company, he has the figures. And so I don't think you do yourself any favors by just grandstanding or like virtue signaling on Twitter when your boss will call you out and he has the information to refute what you're saying. I feel like that's getting into really idiotic territory when you kind of make those kinds of statements.
Now, I do have a question about that because that's one thing that I thought about. Is he like, is it him? Is he reading everything? Or does he have a team who's like scouring Twitter for this? Like, what is.
I think it's him.
Yeah, I think it's him.
Which is, I actually do. Because I've thought about that too. I'm like, how does this man have time? Because I've looked at his tweets and replies. Because like, if you look at just his tweets, like it seems like he only tweets a little bit. If you look at his tweets and replies, that man is in threads constantly tweeting about stuff. And it's like, he has 10 kids, right? He owns multiple companies. How is he doing this? I think that this is an accusation. I think he's like jacked up on Adderall and like just doesn't ever sleep. And I think he's just like, this is what he does all the time. But I do think like
when you're that rich, you follow your passions,
disclaimer.
Disclaimers. I don't know if he's on an Adderall or what, and not that Adderall's bad. I'm not saying anything about it, but I do.
Elon, we like you. Please don't find this podcast and sue us. We don't know what medications you're on, but
I do think that there probably were a lot of people that did it and thought like, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to go down in this, this flame. But I don't think that any of them really expected him to be like tweeting back at them or tweeting to other people. Yeah, I just fired that person. That part is surprising. And I think it's kind of weird. I think it's, I kind of think it's a questionable decision from Elon other than it's good content.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if you were the type of any of us or anyone did it, quit in this fashion and had your boss tweet back at you, like, peace out, I would frame this like somewhere in your house. Like that. This would need to be,
oh, yeah, for sure.
They're doing that.
It's brilliant.
They're framing it.
It'd be your Christmas card for the year, Yeah. Here's what happened. Maybe you
aren't actually wrong, Ariel. But I don't know. I just think I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix of people that were doing it on purpose, and I think it's a mix of people that are just thought nothing would happen, which is wild.
Do we know how many people have done this? Is there any like stats on the number of people who quit this way or called him out?
I don't know. I've personally have only seen like 3, but I'm sure there's plenty more than that.
It feels like probably like 5 total tops, kind of public tweets that I've seen.
Interesting.
So on this decision, Ariel, are you sticking with your?
I mean, my verdict is that it is questionable, but I support these people for making it because I think that they probably knew what they were doing.
Okay, Bobby, what about you? Questionable or not?
I think it's super questionable. I think it's funny too. Which I don't know if I should say that, but I think it's hilarious.
I think it's questionable, hilarious, and I do not support these people.
But if you're listening, we would love to interview you. Find out more about why you decided to do this.
Oh, that would be hilarious. I would have to probably not say anything. I would be super embarrassed because I'd be like, I said you were stupid. So I wouldn't talk in that podcast.
All right. That was it. We'll be back in the future with more. And thanks for listening.